Ikena stayed in the prison crying like a kid. "I can't imagine me been hanged to death. No, I don't want to die," he said sadly. Anyway, the marriage didn't stop. It continues from where it was intruded, and it ended successfully. The next day, the elders gathered again at the king palace, discussing if Ikena should be spared or should be punished. An elder got up and began speaking. "Please, my elders, Ikena is still our son. We cannot just end him like that all because we found some seeds in his hands," said the elder. "But my king, I think Mr. Marcel is right. We cannot just hang our prince like that. At least let punish him in a different way if punishment is compulsory in this matter," another elder said. Mr. Alfred was not happy with what the two elders said. He has been looking for a way to kill Prince Ikena, so he can become the next heir to the throne after King Obi. The both of you should remain silent if you don't have any reasonable suggestion to make. The prince has done an evil thing and he needs to be punished, to show example to the rest of the people living in this village," Mr. Alfred said. "Yea, I'm with you, Mr. Alfred. The prince is a very wicked prince who wants to kill his own brother. Let him be hanged for others to learn, Afam," the king's friend said. "Well, my elders, even if the prince is wrong, I think we should punish him, not to kill him. But if you all insist of hanging him, then I think I should be on my way home. My hands are clean," the elders said, and left the palace. "Enough! Enough of all this nonsense. If you know you are here and you are not in support of us, then stand up and go just like the other person did," the king said with anger. Soon the elders began going one after the other, till it remained only Afam, Mr. Alfred, and another elder in the palace with the king and his wife. "My king don't mind them. Allow them to go. They are claiming to be innocent people, but they are also wicked people," Mr. Alfred said. "My brother will surely pay for trying to poison me. No one in this planet dares the great king and go free. The one who touches the tail of the lion will face his wrath," King Obi said. "Guards, go and bring the prince. It is time for him to face the music he played," the king instructed. So the guards went to the prison and dragged the prince out like a slave. "Please don't do this to me. Please spare my life," the prince begged. But the guards dragged him to the palace and pushed him to the king's front. "Please, brother, forgive me for my sins," Ikena said sadly. "Go and plead with the ancestors for forgiveness. You have played the music, and you will dance to the beat. Hang him!" the king shouted. The guards dragged away into the bush. The king, his friend, and Mr. Alfred followed them at the back. The guards took a strong rope and tied the prince at his hand and legs. They prepared another rope around a tree to hang him. Ikena knew he was surely going to die. "So my mother deceived me," he said silently. Suddenly, a heavy wind hit the area, uprooting so many trees, destroying so many houses and lives, killing so many people in the village. The king was standing firm to the ground like a rock. He believed in his power, and with that nothing can happen to him. But the wind threw Mr. Alfred from the ground and landed him on a tree that bossed out from his stomach, and he died immediately. Afam was also a powerful person. He stood firm to the ground like a rock, but the wind blew the other elder to pieces and he died immediately. The guards who was standing with the prince started running for their lives, but the trees fell on them, and they died completely. All the villagers was running up and down like crazy people. Some ran into death, and others continued running for their life. But Afam and the king stood firm, and nothing happened to them until the wind stopped. Immediately after the wind stopped, the king and his friend Afam ran back to the palace. They realized that the new queen was laying dead in the palace. "This is the handwork of my mother," the king said. "Then let her come, we are waiting for her," Afam and the king said, and set themselves prepared for the queen. Soon the queen appeared with flaming eyes and body. With the Prince Ikena walking right in her front, she was ready for war. So fans, the battle line is drawn. The queen has successfully entered the village, which means the third seed fell into the cup. The king has powers in him, but the seed has made the power more weak than the queen. The king and his friend were also ready for any trouble they might encounter from the queen. "I thought I told you to go and never return. How dares you come back to my kingdom?" the king asked. "This is not your kingdom. You were only a prince who betrayed his parents for wealth and powers," the queen said with flames coming out of her mouth. "That does not answer my question, I repeat. How dare you come into my land? You are a dead woman, and the dead have nothing to do with the living," the king fired back. "Ha ha ha ha, you are right. The dead have nothing to do with the living, but the dead have something to do with the wicked one who has a hand in their death," the queen said. "You lie, woman, you lie. Now go back to wherever you came from," the king instructed with more anger. "Mother, I am getting angry already. Why are you keeping him alive again? Strike him. He has no reason to live," Ekenna said with anger. "When lions are roaring, the ants should shut up. Who gave you the right to speak?" Afam bounced back at Ekenna. "Look at you. What do you gain from supporting my brother's wickedness? You are not from this village. So if there is anyone who should be silent, then it is you," Ekenna shouted back at Afam. "Wow, I like the courage in you, but I will advise you to stay out of this, or I will show you my true colors," Afam said in anger. "Stay out of this fight. This is not your fight. This is our land and my kingdom. You are a stranger," Ekenna said to Afam. Afam became angry, and his eyes started bleeding like blood. He stretched his hand and pointed it at Ekenna, followed by a great lightning bolt, but the queen quickly blocked the force. "How dare you touch my son? Now I will show you what a ghost can do." The queen gathered her powers and threw them to Afam, but the king Obi quickly blocked the force. The four of them positioned themselves for another attack. So the battle continued. The queen did many powerful things to the king, but she wasn't able to kill him because the king had joined forces with Afam, his friend. The battle continued to the extent that everyone in the village began to flee to another village just to escape death. Only a few villagers stood by. "Woman, are you not tired of fighting? I will ask you one more time. Go back to the grave and rest in peace," Afam said. "Mother, I can't believe you are not strong enough to fight these two humans. You are a ghost, mother," Ekenna said with sad in mind. "Now let end this madness," the king said. He went closer to Afam and held hands with him. "Go back to where you can be and never return," the both of them said together, and they struck the queen with great lightning. Immediately, the queen tried to block the force, but the force was coming from two sides, so it was more powerful than her. At last, she obeyed the force and vanished into the air, leaving the Prince Ekenna behind. The Prince Ekenna was so afraid. He knew his brother was never going to spare his life, so he began to run. But the King Obi struck him without mercy, and Ekenna landed on the ground. He was struggling to breathe. The king and Afam walked closer to him. They saw how he was struggling to breathe. "Just have pity on him," Afam begged the king. "No, I will not spare him. Let him face the music." So the king removed his short knife and stabbed Ekenna twice in the stomach. Soon, Ekenna began coughing out blood, and he died. Immediately after he died, there was a great thundering sound in the whole village. The worst has happened. So the king walked gently and sat down on the throne. "This throne belongs to me, and to me it will be forever. Even the gods will obey me," King Obi said. "How was it possible for them to defeat the queen? Yes, they joined forces together, and don't forget that the king is not a normal human being again. He is also a ghost in human form. Someone who was cooked in a pot for 7 days and you think he is still a normal human, including Afam. Both people are very dangerous beings living with humans. But justice must prevail. But how? Suddenly, a heaven wind began gathering around Ekenna's corpse. After some seconds, the wind vanished from the spot, and Ekenna's body disappeared from the ground, where he lay dead. "What is happening, my king? I can't find your brother's dead body anymore," Afam said. The king looked and saw that truly, Ekenna's dead body was gone after the heavy wind blew. "Do not be afraid, my friend. No matter what my mother does, she cannot find the justice she deserves. The throne is mine, and I am more powerful than her ghost. No one can defeat me anymore, King Obi said. You are right, my king. Let her come back if she likes. We are always prepared for war, Afam said. Even the ancestors will obey my commands. No one is greater than the great King Obi, and that final, Obi said with pride. After some days, there was no sign of the Ghost Queen. So some of the villagers who ran away from the village began returning home since the problem had been resolved. Everyone was leaving peacefully again, but for about 2 weeks after the incident, the ghosts still never showed up. Some villagers felt like the battle had been resolved, so they continued their daily lives. The king and Afam were ruling the village the way they wanted, and no one could question their decision. 2 days later, all the villagers were gathered at the king palace, as the king was giving orders and addressing some issues on what the people should do and what they shouldn't do. As the gathering was going on, suddenly a great and powerful wind started. Although the wind didn't come with anger, it was a heavy one. Then behold, the dead queen appeared in the sky in between the wind, and the dead king also appeared, holding Ekenna's dead body in his hands. The dead king floated till he landed on the ground like a bomb, making some villagers tremble on the floor. The dead king dropped Ekenna's dead body on the ground, then he moved forward close to the body. The queen also landed on the ground, looking more angry than ever. Ha ha, ha ha. So you still have the mind to come back here, and you even brought your husband this time. Are you not tired of fighting? The king Obi asked. Just thank the gods that you are dead already. If not, then I would have killed you for the second time, Obi said with anger. Enough! The old king said with a voice of anger. You took my life, and you did the same to your mother, and now your brother too. No, impossible, today is your end, the old king said. Ha 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 ha, I don't like talking too much. I will advise you to go back and rest in your grave, Obi said. No going back until justice prevails, the old king said. King Obi got angry. He went closer to Afam, and they held hands together, and a strong power began flowing around them. They threw the power to the old king, but the old king blocked the force without stress. Afam was shocked that their combined power could not even shake the old king. Two little boys that grew wings. How can you defeat a ghost like me? Never, the king said, and he gathered a strong force and threw it at the Obi and Afam. The force was so strong that both of them fell down helplessly. King Obi realizes that he can never defeat the old king. He came very prepared. King Obi began confessing everything he did to the whole villagers who stood there. Yee! All the villagers shouted. The villagers got very angry and started stoning him, but the old king stopped them. You can't kill him, the old king said. The dead queen went close to Ekenna's body and brought it closer to King Obi. Because of your evil, you killed your own brother. But now your brother will live, and you will perish, the queen said, placing her hands on Obi and Ekenna. Immediately, King Obi began shouting loudly until he gave up and died. After King B died, Ekenna's body began shaking again, and he coughed once and opened his eyes. All the villagers began shouting in happiness. Prince Ekenna stood up and was surprised. He saw the spirit of his late mom and dad standing and smiling at him. Mother, how was it possible for you to bring me back to life? Ekenna asked. Yes, it is possible, my son. The throne is yours, so the ancestors can never allow you to die, the old king said. Please, I don't want the both of you to go back again. Please stay with me, Ekenna said to his parents. Ha ha, impossible, my son. We are ghosts and you are a human. We can now rest peacefully together since justice served according. But mother, what about Afam? He is also a part of all this wickedness, Ekenna said. He will be thrown into the evil forest, and you know that no one survives in the evil forest, the queen said. Our time here is over. We have to go now. Please, Ekenna, rule peacefully with your people And remember that you have our blessings." Both parents said this and vanished into the air. So it happened exactly. Obi's body was not buried. He was thrown into the evil forest with Afam. Prince Ikenna was later crowned king, and he married a very beautiful woman named Adanma. They both lived happily together. The village was born again in peace. There was no more fighting, confusion, or conflict. Everything was going well with the village. One day, King Ikenna was discussing some things with the elders at his palace when the palace maids ran to him. "My king! Your wife just gave birth to a bouncy baby boy," the maid said. Immediately, the king stood up and started dancing in happiness, and the elders also joined the dance. "Go and call all the villagers and let them celebrate," King Ikenna said. "Oh, what a happy ending, please, everyone, if you have been watching without dropping a comment. This is the time you have to show me that I am not wasting my time by dropping a very good comment on this story. Share this story as much as you can, please. God bless everyone that will drop a good comment here, and expect another boom story."